The White House is preparing an executive order banning banks from cutting off customers based on their religious or political beliefs. This debanking trend grew under the Biden administration alongside the rise in social media censorship. Joining us now to discuss is Ryan Bangert, Senior Vice President for Strategic Initiatives at Alliance Defending Freedom. Ryan, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So first, how did this executive order come about, and was it needed?
Well, John, it's very needed. And I think there are very few things we can all agree on in America today, but one of them is that no one should be denied access to financial services simply because of their political or their religious beliefs. Unfortunately, what we've seen is over the past several years, regulators in particular have pressured financial institutions to do just that. And ADF has been working on this issue now for some time. And I can say this action is just in the nick of time.
Now, the claim from the left is that this is not happening. This is a myth. It's all technical reasons that people are getting debanked. You're arguing that this is absolutely needed. It's been happening, and there has been a rising trend. Is that correct?
Well, that's true. And just look at the facts that we've seen play out over the last several years. Just last year in 2024, the U.S. Supreme Court decided a case, National Rifle Association versus VULO, in which the New York Department of Financial Services was alleged to have pressured financial institutions, banks and insurers to remove services from the National Rifle Association as well as gun manufacturers simply because Maria Vullo, who at that time was running DFS, was very anti-Second Amendment. And so right there in the U.S. Supreme Court, we saw this play out in real time. We also saw the House Select Committee on the Weaponization of Government, a select subcommittee on weaponization of government last year released a report showing Treasury Department officials pressuring banks to surveil customers who had purchased items at places like Bass Pro Shops, Cabela's, other sporting goods stores. But beyond that, they were providing guidance to financial institutions to surveil transactions with groups identified by far left pressure organizations as hate groups including the Alliance Defending Freedom. So we know it's happening. There's evidence that it's happening. It's been documented copiously by the U.S. Supreme Court, by the Congressional Committee on Select Subcommittee on Weaponization. So this is not really up for debate.
Now, we have seen some states take action, Tennessee's among them, to eliminate this kind of behavior. What have we seen in terms of the national movement leading up to this executive order?
We have seen some positive movement, especially you mentioned Tennessee. ADF has a client in Tennessee, Indigenous Advanced Ministries, whose bank account was withdrawn by Bank of America. And the reasons given were they simply didn't want to do business with an organization like that. So that's clearly an instance where reputational risk or social risk policies are being applied. And that's really the avenue through which a lot of these banks are imposing debanking. But Tennessee passed a law that prohibited this kind of political or ideological debanking. Idaho has also recently passed just such a law. And we've seen some movement on the part of banks. JP Morgan Chase, to their credit, recently revised their social risk policies in response to pressure that was brought to bear after Ambassador Sam Brownback's organization, NCRF, was debanked. So we have seen some positive movement both from state lawmakers as well as from industry itself.
Are there any concerns that this executive order could overcorrect and actually infringe on the free operating principles of private businesses, the banks?
Certainly, John. I haven't seen the executive order yet, but certainly things that have been reported in the media and things that ADF has been advocating for would be the federal regulators removing onerous reputational risk policies that are really covers for ideological and political debanking. There's no risk that that's going to infringe on any kind of business or commercial rights because those have been abused for years now. So I'm not terribly concerned. I think this is a badly needed correction. And I think it also will be helpful to banks because banks, quite frankly, have been laboring under pressure from leftists and elitists in government who are trying to impose their political will through the regulatory process. And so removing that kind of pressure, I think will be a relief not only to the organizations that have been targeted, but to the banks themselves.
Well, as you've laid out, this issue has gained a lot of attention in recent years. A lot of people anxious to see this new order. Ryan, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.